Welcome to this very first video dedicated to the 6th Regulating for Decent Work Conference, Work and Well-Being in the 21st Century. This is a conference taking place in the ILO standing for International Labour Organization, so the ILO headquarters in Geneva, in Switzerland. So, as I did for previous conferences, I will highlight some key points of today's talk. And basically I'm just talking about the half day because I'm doing this video at noon. So we had the usual introduction talks and introduction keynotes for this half day. And one of the first talks we had was given by Deborah Greenfield. Deborah Greenfield is the ILO Deputy Director General for Policies. And she's saying something I'm really enjoying, that we are not here to adjust people to the work, but we need to adapt the workplace to people. So that's an emphasis I really appreciate. And she also dealt with the concept, and some of the other speakers in the semi-plenary sessions, in the parallel sessions, did. She used the concept of capabilities. This is a really important concept, and as an occupational medicine specialist, I usually have this concept in papers on ergonomics, but it is at the very beginning, it is a concept developed by an economist called Amartya Sen, and many of the speakers have dealt with this concept. So it is important to have a little point on this. So the idea of this theory of capabilities is first to focus on what people are able to do, but what people are able to do is not only what they are doing. What they are called functionings. But we need to provide conditions for this functionings to be effective. And in a paper previously published in the Scandinavian Journal of Work, Environment and Health, an author used the metaphor of a bicycle. So if you want to go from a place to another one, you want to use a bicycle, you don't need only to ride a bicycle. You also need to know to ride it, to be taught how to ride a bicycle. You need to have a functioning bicycle. You know the rules about riding on the roads and etc. So it is also about the conditions of the functionings to be fully effective. So it was to me quite important to deal with this concept, and in many papers on economics nowadays we are able to have these word capabilities, and it's important to know a little bit more of where it's coming. The second big part of this small video is about the keynote we had from an economist, professor of economics in England, Mariana Mazzucato. She's quite a superstar, publishing books and whatever. So she is exactly a professor in the economics of innovation and public value at the University College of London. So I was, the conference is mixing a lot of people coming far from medicine, economists, people from law making, etc. So when I was listening to that talk by an economist, I was thinking, it will be kind of boring, it will be about capitalism and generate profits, and this is very far from what I'm interested with. Well, that was pretty much not the case, because at some point she was talking about the French economist Thomas Piketty, and it rang me a bell, because I read a bit of his work. He is called an heterodoxic economist, meaning he is not in the mainstream of economics, and her talk was really interesting, and I would like to highlight 4 bullet points of that. First of all, she talks about the public structures and how public structures are governed. And governance in public structures is not only to deal with applying policies that are decided by others. There is a need to have a direction, to have an on-site policy, I would say. And these statements made me think about the current situation in public hospitals in France. As you may know or not, there is a high strike movement in the emergency rooms in over 100 hospitals in France. And as I worked myself in public health system in France, sometimes we are told that policies in the public health systems are decided by others, by health agencies, and we have no room to accommodate these policies and make the local adjustment. We are, there is a lot of constraints on people at the top management on the hospitals. And well, it rang a bell because this is pretty much what she's saying. There is not a need just to apply policies. There is a need to decide things, even at a much more local level in public structures. That was quite interesting. The second point is that, and this is the main thing she said, that price is not value. So the example she took during this talk is that we pay a certain amount of money for the service provided by a teacher, and this money is not related to the value of what is provided by the teacher, meaning education and whatever. So we have no interest on outcomes all in all, meaning how we measure in our society education, how we do measure that and provide a value to that. And there is another example she provided about medication. On the contrary, some medication are really, really expensive. And why is that? So is there any connection between the price and the value of that? So this is really interesting. Another thing, and this will be the third one, is one of the problems is that profits generated by businesses are not reinvested in real economy. This is not very new at all, but we need to have some time to keep that in mind. And she said that most of the profits generated are reinvested on buybacks or shares, so not in the real economy at all. And I'd like to make the connection with prevention and speeches, general speeches provided by stakeholders in the enterprises. They always say that they have no money to act on prevention. But is that so true? Meaning in big businesses, if you decide to reinvest your money on buybacks, on your own shares, it is obvious that we will have troubles to save money to invest in prevention. So this is always tricky with that. And although prevention is deemed and proved that is cost effective, such investments are not made because there is also the short-term thinking, because investing on prevention is a long-term thinking. So, well, all of these is quite interesting to make relationship in between. And the final idea, and this will be the fourth and final bullet point of that talk, is that, and nothing brand new, but as physicians, it's quite important to have the basics of economics, especially in occupational medicine. There is a tendency to socialize the risks and to privatize the reward, meaning when we have to take some risks to invest, and the money we will invest, the bank will take a part of the risk, you take part of the risk, the governments take part of the risk because they will be compensating money losses as we had in some financial crisis and whatever. So this is the risk socializing. But when there are rewards, such rewards are not shared between all of these stakeholders, meaning the workers do not have as much as they deserve compared to the investment of the work. But when we think about socializing risk and socializing the occupational risk as well, is that so true that we fully socialize the occupational risk? Well, we should be cautious when we have statements on focusing the risk on individuals, and we discussed that in a paper we did on the room of errors. For instance, this is something that has been implemented in hospital to train healthcare workers not to reproduce mistakes they make, but these systems are troublemaking because they are not taking into account the context in which people are making errors. So the paradigmatic approach of that is that people are making errors because they are lacking of training. So this is reinforcing the idea of that the worker is the reason for the occupational risk. So in this idea, there is no socialization of the risk. The risk is transferred or privatized to the worker. So this is quite interesting to know. So, well, that's enough for this morning. I will try to make another video every day as I did for the previous conferences. And an interesting fact, because as you may know if you already had a look to the previous videos on the other conferences, I always deal with the conference bag, and I always have this wonderful bag provided in the ICO conference in 2015, and this year no bag. So I'm not that disappointed because it is sometimes a waste of goods to provide a new bag to each conference. So that was quite a good idea to just provide the book of upskirt. So see you tomorrow, and have a nice day.